Well, here we are in the next video. See, I told you I'd see you. So this video is about the point of and the story of the Wall of Science. The Wall of Science is somewhere, I don't know where you're, on the wall. And if you're not on campus, then I will get something put up on Moonami for you to see that represents the Wall of Science. So what is the Wall of Science? Why do we do it? And what are some of the fun, cool things that are going to be happening with the Wall of Science this year? That involves you. So, first, where did it even come from? Okay, what's the deal? Well, when I was a younger teacher, when I didn't have as much experience as I have now, I think we're talking about my third year teaching. I think it was like my third year. Because if you saw my introductory video, or you were there in the classroom on the first day of class, I think I've got like 12 and a half years of teaching experience by now. But way back when I was like a younger teacher, and my hair was more brown, and I wasn't so bald. But back when I was a younger teacher, there was a trend that the school that I was at was doing, and this trend was called reading across the curriculum. And what they meant by reading across the curriculum was, the idea was, we want students to be reading more than just their textbook in every class. And of course that happens in English, because you read books in English, you read short stories in English, but they wanted people to read in everything. They wanted people to read books outside the textbook in history and in math. I don't know what those poor algebra teachers did. I think the algebra teachers and the geometry teachers and calculus teachers, I think they were sweating bullets about what are we going to have students read in math. And so here I was, one of the science teachers, and I'm thinking, what am I going to have them read? And at the time, I was kind of nerding out. I was reading a lot about science history. And I thought, well, we can read science history. And so that's how it started. And it started to appease this trend that was happening at the school where I was at the time. But it turned out to be totally awesome for many reasons. So it is an example of one of my favorite vocabulary words. And see, I mentioned that I spent 11 years so far teaching science, but I taught English for a year and a half. So I never stopped being an English teacher, and I write books and stuff. So one of my favorite English vocabulary words is serendipity. So serendipity is finding something wonderful when you weren't even looking for it. Something you were not expecting. It's finding something unexpectedly wonderful. So here's what happened with the Wall of Science. I thought I was just trying to get along with this program called Reading Across the Curriculum, but here's what happened. I noticed that one of the things that happens sometimes with science students is they will say things out of their mouths, their words. They will say things like, oh yeah, science is for smart people. I'm not really a smart person. Science isn't really my thing. And the thing is, they wouldn't think of themselves as somebody who could be into science, because they didn't think of themselves as one of those smart people. But when I was reading science history, and I saw what scientists were really like, the scientists who got things in our world to be the way they are, the science that turned into cars and computers and trains and planes and the phone that I'm using as a video camera to talk to you right now, the internet, the scientists who, got that stuff together, or the knowledge that became that stuff together, they had some very interesting lives. Okay, it was not what I expected. So one of the points of the Wall of Science is to get across that scientists do not just land on the earth in a spaceship and then come out of the spaceship with big glowing brains like a science fiction movie. Wom, 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 wom. So scientists are real people, and an amazing number of them didn't even have a science degree. Some of them didn't even go to school. One of the people that's going on the Wall of Science this year never took a single science class. Not one, not ever. And yet he's huge for how our understanding of science developed. So that's one of the points of the Wall of Science, is to really look at what scientists are really like. And then, because you'll notice that a lot of these scientists, they had issues. I mean, nobody's life is perfect. Nobody gets through life without encountering the great unfairness. The unfairness of life hits you when you're young or when you're old or somewhere in the middle. And if unfairness hasn't really hit your life yet, just wait, it will. Just wait. Nobody gets through life without encountering the unfairness. So some of these scientists were women at a time when women weren't supposed to be scientists according to society. Some of these scientists had a skin color that, was not favored for science and academical pursuits at that time. Or some of these scientists had severe money problems. Some of these scientists had family tragedies. Some of these scientists had huge health issues. And yet they came through and had these amazing lives. So that's kind of, part of the point of the Wall of Science. Now, here's how we get to do it. So every year I put up the Wall of Science. And somebody, if they wanted to be critical, they could say, well, yeah, that's just Mr. Clement's favorite scientist he puts up every year. That would be boring. I mean, I could do that, but that would be boring. So how we do this in my class is towards the end of the year, like fourth quarter, I stop putting up my own people. And what happens fourth quarter is you guys, after you saw the example of the people I put up, fourth quarter, you guys pick the people that go on the Wall of Science. And how you do that is you're going to write a report on somebody that you pick. And then you're going to have to present your report and get other people to vote on why your person should be on the Wall of Science. So every year, the Wall of Science looks differently than any other year. So at the beginning, it kind of looks the same because I kind of started the same. But as the year progresses, the students pick who they want. And so every year is personalized for each class. It's different than it was for some other year. So, get ready for the Wall of Science. And towards the end of the year, there will be a Wall of Science project where you write a report on someone that you want to nominate for the Wall of Science, and we'll have Wall of Science elections and vote. So, all for science. So that's kind of the Wall of Science idea, the story of where it came from, why we do it, and another thing that it does, real quick, is the Wall of a lot of times, one of the questions I get as a science teacher from students. And they're not just being smart Alex. This is a normal question that a young person would wonder. Sometimes older people wonder it. And they'll ask, well, how do we really know that? Like I've heard people ask me, like, well, Mr. Clement, how do we really know that atoms are real? How do we really know, blah, this or that or the other thing? How do we really know? Well, when on the Wall of Science, we go into the life stories of the people who found out. Like what these people actually went through in their lives to get us in 2020 this knowledge. So it's kind of exciting. Or if you don't find it exciting, I'll try to make it exciting for the class, at least, work for the grade or something. But anyway, that's the Wall of Science. It's up there wherever, if you're watching this in the room or if you're not watching this in the room. And if you want to see it on Moonami, I'll get something loaded up for that. So that's the point of and the story of the Wall of Science. I will see you in the next video.